Hello. Come on in. Welcome to Ask Krista Anything. Glad to spend some time with you. Hey, Barb and Brandy and Carol. I'll give everybody a second to come in. Kathy, Cheryl, Chris, Claire, Connie, Chris, Ellen, Heather, Isabel, Janet. Hey, Janet. I owe you an email, Janet. I didn't forget about you. Julie, so great to see you. It's a familiar name from the past. Leah, Lisa. Okay, love it. Glad you're all here. We're going to spend a half an hour together if you're willing, if you're ready. So, I want to answer any questions I can answer for you today. I want to coach you, I want to help you, whatever it is you need. We're going to spend the next half hour tackling it. So, how this will work is that if you look at that Q&A box on your Zoom screen, you can click on it and then you can type a question in there and I will see it and I will answer it. Nobody else will see it except me. And I will see it. So if you want to do it anonymously, you can, but you can type anything you want. And then, thank you, Priscilla. I appreciate that. Also, I love to actually have a conversation with you if I can help you personally. So if you know that you want to have a conversation with me, then you just click on the little raise hand button. And when you click on the raise hand button, that tells me that you want me to promote you to panelist, which just basically means everybody gets to see you and hear you. And then we can have a conversation and I can coach you or help you live on the call. So that's how we're going to do this. So if we've never met before, I'm Krista St-Germain, and I am a master certified life coach, also a widow and a mom, and I run a couple of programs. My main program is called Mom Goes On, and it's for widows who are kind of stuck in that grief plateau place where they want to love life again, but they don't really know how, but they really want to. And then I also have a program called Grief Essentials, which is an 8-week program, much faster, but it's designed for people who are in early grief and who are really struggling in early grief and they're looking for early grief to be easier. I do this work because looking back on my own grief experience after my husband died, I can see how much I struggled more than I needed to struggle because I did not have accurate information about grief. I did not have tools that helped me. What I thought I knew about grief had to do with 5 stages. It had to do with time healing. It had to do with counting your blessings and being grateful and doing and all of the things that I now look back and just, dang it, I wish somebody had given me accurate information. And then, of course, how to feel your feelings and look at your thoughts and realize that just because you're believing that your best days are behind you, that doesn't actually mean that they are and that you can change your thoughts. All of those kinds of things are things that I am passionate about. Post-traumatic growth as well. So that's why I am here. That's why I do what I do. And I do these calls once a month just to help you. Some of you will come and work with me in my paid programs. Some of you may never do that, but I get to help you either way. So that's why we're here. So, okay, I see some questions coming in. Hi, Terry. Hey, Carol. There's Barb. Love it. Okay. If thoughts cause feelings, how do you stop the thoughts? That is a great question, Barb. You don't. We can't really even control the thoughts that show up in our mind, right? Thoughts just show up. I have an app, a meditation app, and I was doing a meditation app this morning, and I loved what the woman said. She said, I consider my mind my ATM, my automatic thought machine. That's a good label, my automatic thought machine. Thoughts just show up. Humans have tens of thousands of thoughts every single day. So we can't really stop the thoughts from showing up. But what we can do is we can learn to separate ourselves as the thinker from the thoughts that we are thinking. And that is called cognitive diffusion. And basically, that just means we can get ourselves in a place where we more quickly notice that there is me over here, the human, the thinker, and there is the thought that comes into my mind. It feels like they're kind of flooding in sometimes, but I can start to see them as optional, right? So my example would be, because I really did believe it, my best days are behind me. I didn't want to say it out loud, but that was a thought that I had after Hugo died, was that my best days are probably behind me. I should just be grateful for what I had. I'm just going to focus on the kids. I'll be okay, but I'm probably never going to be happy again. Those, when we're experiencing a thought like that, we don't experience it as optional. We don't experience it as, something like a cloud floating by. We experience it as truth. And so we have to be able to stop, long enough to separate what is actually factual from the thought that we are having about it. This is a huge thing that we do in Mom Goes On. After feelings work, it's the thing we do next, which is separating the objective truth from the brain's interpretation, from the thoughts. So the objective truth was that my husband died. Truth, right? Circumstance, fact. Prove that in a court of law. I could show you his death certificate. My thought about it, I had many of them. One of my thoughts was, I'm never going to be happy again. My best days are behind me. Those thoughts, right? So I can't stop that thought from coming, but just because I notice that it is a thought, when I notice, oh, like I've got my little chapstick here, that thought is something I can hold in the palm of my hand. And because I can tell that it is not me, I don't need to stop it. I now know that there is a difference between me and that thought, and I can put it down and I can pick up a different thought. My readers, right? Maybe if other widows have gone on to love life, I could too. I can pick up that thought. So we aren't trying to stop the thoughts. We're trying to notice them as thoughts, create a little separation so that we can get some leverage and pivot to a new and more useful thought based on what we want to create. So great question though, Barb. Did you find yourself talking to yourself because your person wasn't there anymore? Yes, although I feel like I've always talked to myself. So I don't know that that was necessarily new for me. What was really helpful for me, Brandy, was actually journaling to him, writing to him, having conversations with him in writing. And sometimes I would answer as though he were answering me, or I would ask a question or write to him and kind of listen to what I perceived his answer would be. Is it actually his answer? I don't know, but it's how he sounded in my head. So if you're worried that you're crazy or something's wrong with you because you're talking to yourself because he's not there anymore, please don't. I think that's very common. In fact, it would be interesting to see everybody in the chat. You can weigh in on that. Do you talk to yourself because your person isn't there anymore? Is that normal for you? Because I think it's pretty dang normal. Oh, thanks, Carol. I appreciate that. She says she loves my hair. This is what happens when I don't dry it and flat iron it. It's just curly. Kathy, about 2.5 years since my husband was killed in an accident, the unexpected tragic loss has left me struggling with the no goodbye. Any advice? I feel like the longer time passes, the worse it gets. Yeah, I wonder what you believe about the no goodbye, because that definitely there was no goodbye. I wonder if you believe that you should have had a goodbye. Maybe type that in the chat. What is it that you believe, Kathy, about not being given the chance to say goodbye? Another thing we could do, besides coaching on the thought portion of it, is that we could actually create a goodbye. Like you could create a ritual for yourself where you actually do say goodbye. And that could include hearing him say goodbye to you if that feels important to you. Of course, it can't actually happen, but you might find some relief in that. But you might let me know what you're thinking about that. Okay, he died while you were at work. Yeah. So is it that what is, because if it is true that you didn't get to say goodbye to him and he didn't get to say goodbye to you, what I'm wondering is then what's the story about that? Why is it a problem that you didn't get to say goodbye or that he didn't get to say goodbye? And I'm not suggesting that it shouldn't be a problem. What I'm trying to understand is what your brain is telling you that makes it a problem. And then we can take a look at that. Janet, I have some cool news to share with you. Thanks to the progress I made in what I call grief school. Is that what you call Mom Goes On? It's grief school. I like it. Yes, email me. Okay, but in the meantime, what can you tell me about landmines that appear out of nowhere? Like when to expect them based on your experience with tons of widows. Thank you for your compliment on my hair. I like to call them grief grenades, Janet. That term resonates with me because it just feels like what they are. They just kind of sneak up on us. And I also like to call them that because they do feel like they appear out of nowhere. And so I think if it can be sometimes a fruitless effort to try to anticipate them when in some ways we just really can't. They just show up. And so if we just expect them to show up, and when they show up, we don't make it mean that we've done anything wrong or that there's anything wrong with us. We just have a supportive way that we treat ourselves, then they get a little bit easier. So it might just be a hand on the heart, right? When you put your hand on your heart, it actually helps tell your body that you are safe. So, and I mean, not just a gentle hand on the heart. I would do it a little more firmly. Sometimes I will put both hands on my heart, but a hand on the heart, a few deep breaths. This is a grief grenade, right? And then maybe what do I need right now? Maybe you need to talk to somebody. Maybe you need to sit there and breathe for a minute. Maybe you need to cry. Maybe you want to do some tapping, right? But it is, oof, okay. I'm not making myself wrong. I'm not telling myself that I regressed. I'm not telling myself I failed grief school or didn't do anything right, right? It's like, oh, nope, okay, grief grenade. I remember one of the most surprising ones for me was I had gone to on a trip. I was in Las Vegas actually, and it was no, I don't know, 6 or 7 years after Hugo died, and I drove a Toyota Camry. He drove a Dodge Durango, and the accident when he died happened with both cars, right? So the car hit his car and trapped him in between his car and mine. And the last time I had seen a silver Toyota Camry with a fin on it was that day. And it obviously was not the most pleasant memory. And so I remember being totally caught off guard when I got out of, I had taken an Uber and I knew it was a Camry that I was getting into, but it was when we got out of the Camry, when we got to our destination and the driver pulled the luggage out of the trunk. Hello. I did not see that coming at all. But fortunately, I already knew these things, right? I knew how to take really good care of myself. And it was like, oh, wow, grief grenade. Okay. Breathing, heart hold, you know, taking really good care of myself. And that's it, right? Is that we don't have a way of anticipating those things. Sometimes it's a smell or a sight or just something that triggers an old memory, or it's a secondary loss that we're feeling, and there it is. And yeah, we're just not going to be able to see it. So hopefully that helps. Don't worry so much about spotting it and noticing it in advance, and focus more on, do I have a plan for how I treat myself and take care of myself when I do notice it? Okay, more from Kathy. Thank you, Kathy. I feel cheated from the rest of our life. I feel like we won't get to do the things we waited to do now that the kids are grown. So I guess I feel like there's no closure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and closure is a myth anyway. Closure is just the idea that we believe something, right? Like, think about, everybody, you can think about this and pop it in the chat maybe if you want. When you imagine closure, pardon me, you get a drink. What is that idea? Is it peace? Is it acceptance? Is it believing that it happened, that it's over, it's done? It is a belief. I want you to think about what it is for you. Oh, thank you. Jamie just popped in the chat a link to a podcast episode I did on the closure myth. That might help you. And all the episodes of the Widowed Mom podcast are free, by the way. So go listen to all of them. Jamie is awesome, isn't she, Barb? She is awesome. She knows my podcast better than me sometimes. So what is it that you think, okay, if I had more information, if I got to say goodbye, if I really understood what happened, if I knew why, like if I had told myself, well, I won't have closure until I understand why that man got behind the wheel with meth and alcohol in his system. Why did that happen? I won't have closure until I tell myself I understand why that doctor made the mistake that he made in the hospital, right? There's all these things. But really, none of that is true. What actually happens, we tell ourselves, I can't feel good until I have a different amount of data, right? I can't feel good. And that's not true, because sometimes what we think after we get more data actually makes us feel worse. It's not the data, it's not the information that we need. There is a belief I want to have, and I am telling myself that it is not available to me until something outside of me changes. And fortunately, that is not true. If it were true, we'd be in trouble, right? Fortunately, that is not true. Fortunately, whatever it is I want to believe about our relationship, about how they died, about my future, about any of it, all exists within me, and I have agency to choose for myself. And I think it's really important that we remind ourselves of that. And so if we can ask ourselves, what is it that I really wish I could believe about their death? Or what is it I really wish I could believe about my life? It seems like we can't believe that sometimes until we have more information. It's just not true. It's just not true. So yes, you did get cheated from the vision that you had for your life. right? Yes, you won't get to do the things that you waited to do. I'm not going to try to convince you to believe that that is fair or desirable. And now we build something else, right? We feel all of the feelings and let all of that energy move around how we feel about what we lost. And now we decide who we want to be and what we're going to create going forward. Yeah. Janet, I love it. She's like, got it. I hate this shit. So true. Feelings can be hard and grief grenades can be hard. I hear you. Okay, Brandy, a song sent me over the cliff Sunday when I was cleaning, right? Like we just don't know when that's coming or when it's going to happen. Sometimes, I mean, you just never would anticipate it. And then here we are, and we are having all sorts of feelings. Oh, yeah, she has two songs. One about holding his hand till the end, but I didn't get to do that. And I still feel guilty because I wasn't there at the end. And the other was just about having one last chance to do something, right? Rip your heart out. And if you want, Brandy, you might look at if you're looking for relief around the guilt that you feel, I would offer that the guilt that you feel is caused by the thought that you should have been there, probably. That's what you wrote because I wasn't there at the end, and what I'm guessing is that that means that your mind is offering you the thought that you should have been there, and that should thought is the thought that's probably creating the guilt for you. And so we could challenge that. Like, is it true that you should have been there? I mean, obviously you wanted to be there, but you weren't there. So should you have been there? There is an argument we could make that says, if it happened this way, then that is the way that it happened. So saying that it shouldn't have happened the way that it happened kind of puts us in a losing position. So we could also look at that should thought. Amy, my husband passed due to a long illness with dementia. Recently, I've had dreams about him being ill, and I'm right back to the stress, unknown, and caregiving. Upon waking, it's so upsetting. Why now, 5-ish years later? Prior to this, my dreams have been Our Town-esque, dreaming about us having a regular day, no illness. Yeah, the brain does all kinds of things that I won't tell you that I understand. And what I would say is don't worry so much about why you're dreaming the way that you're dreaming. Your brain is trying to work through something, and it may not be something that you understand. Maybe there's some extra stress happening in your environment. I don't know, but it's not uncommon at all. And what I would be thinking more about is how can I have my own back around this? How can I tell myself a story that makes my experience easier as opposed to what I might be inclined to do, which is to tell myself a story about something's wrong and I didn't do my grief right and who knows what it might be. But it's like I wake up and I'm like, oof, that was heavy. That was upsetting. Okay, again, how can I comfort myself? How can I tell my body that I'm safe? Maybe I put my hand on my heart. Maybe I do a little tapping. Maybe I even just, I'll give you a couple more. Relax your tongue. Everybody do this. Just relax your tongue, the back of your tongue. And if it was at the roof of your mouth, let it drop down to the floor of your mouth. And I'm not doing this so well because I'm talking, but you're not talking. So just let your tongue kind of melt into the bottom of your mouth. That is one way to tell your nervous system that you're safe. And another thing that you can do as you're letting your tongue melt, or in lieu of that, is just notice your exhale and make your exhale longer than your inhale. So when you inhale, make your exhale longer. If twice as long feels good to you, I would do that. So you inhale, exhale longer, or even twice as long. These are the kinds of things we can do that don't require a whole lot of thought. We can do them when the part of our brain that requires that is required for deep thinking is not available to us. We can remind ourselves that we're safe. And so it would be those kinds of things that I would be doing, Amy, when you wake up with that upsetting dream is okay. I'm going to use a body-based tool to create some calm in my body. I'm going to remind my nervous system that I'm safe. And then I'm going to talk to myself in ways that are supportive. So if my normal story is, what the hell is wrong with you, Amy? What's your problem? No, wow. Brains are wild. Dreams are wild. That was wild. Here I am, right here, right now. I'm safe. Those kinds of things. Because who knows what's going on in there? I have the strangest dreams sometimes too. I used to have a recurring dream that after I started dating someone, it was like that scene in that Tom Hanks movie where he has Castaway. We talked about this, where he would come back and then he would see that I was with someone else and then I would have to choose. Why? I don't know, but that's what my brain was doing. That is what it was doing. Okay. I think I got through all of your questions. You are welcome, Kathy. Anybody want to actually have a conversation? If you do, raise your little Zoom hand. Okay, I see another question. I'll answer it. My husband died 3 months ago after a long-term illness, and I'm trying to find who I am again after caregiving for so long. Find my happy for my kids. Any ideas or thoughts? Yeah. It I it is so common to not feel like you know who you are, right? And that the switch, the identity switch from wife to widow, it is in and of itself super challenging, and also from caregiver, right, to not being a caregiver anymore. So I would say, first of all, to just normalize the idea that we kind of don't know. Like we know many things about ourselves, and also we don't know what it's like to be in this place in life. We don't know what it's like to be in this role yet, which is very different than saying I don't know who I am, right? No, I there are many things I do know about myself, but I haven't been in this place yet, right? I don't know what it's like to be me in this chapter. I don't know what it's like yet to be me without being the caregiver that I've been for so long. And to kind of just hold that in that way. And then we just start experimenting, right? We don't treat it as a problem to solve, right? And because it's totally okay to not completely know and to let it unfold as it does. If we can make peace with that feeling of, yeah, I'm just kind of figuring it out and I don't completely know yet, but I'm going to get there, right? I hold the belief that I'm going to get there, that I'm figuring it out, that, it's possible for me to do whatever it is or be whatever it is that I want, but I'm not putting a ton of pressure on myself to know. And I just let myself go out and experiment and try things. This is this can be a hard thing to do, to experiment and try things for some of us. And I guess I say that from personal experience. I don't want to assume that maybe it's hard for you, maybe it's not. But I think I tend to put a lot of pressure on myself, or used to know. I'm just supposed to know. And that there's no room for trial, because trial is about success, right? And if I can't go out there and try something and then not be good at it, I have to decide and then go be good. Pass, right? It's a recipe for misery. So instead, like, no, okay, I'm going to use a scientific method. I'm going to make a hypothesis that I might like to X, Y, or Z, right? I know about myself that I value contribution. This is a way that I see that I might like to make a contribution. And so my hypothesis is that I'm going to go volunteer here, or try that career, or study this, or meet these people, right? Whatever it is. It's a hypothesis. And then I do an experiment and I put myself in that position and I see what happens, right? I get some data. What do I learn? Did I like it? Did I not like it? Right? And if I like it, great. Now I know that. If I didn't like it, great. Now I know that. And then I can adjust. All right, well, what else do I want to try? So I don't expect myself to know. I don't have to go on some like deep, dark internal sojourn of like finding my purpose, because that's so much pressure that is not fun for any of us. What can I let myself experiment with? How can I play around this? How can I give myself opportunities to learn more things about what does light me up without it being heavy or full of pressure? And then I just figure it out. I learn by doing. Thank you. See, Jamie, we can count on her. There's a podcast link for your purpose, finding your purpose. You're welcome. Yeah, okay. Widow fog is real. Oh, an imperfect action until. Okay, amazing. So if you want to pop any last minute questions, do. I want to let you know that we're enrolling Mom Goes On for our February cohort. The way that we do Mom Goes On is that it's a constantly enrolling program. So at the beginning of the month, we enroll a new small group, and at the end of the month, the small group graduates. And inside of that community, there's about 100 women in there probably. There are women who are in their first 6 months. There are women who are in our master's program. There are women who have continued and call themselves lifers and may never leave because they love the community. So you'll find women in there who have been there since literally 2019, which is amazing because it's an incredibly supportive and encouraging environment. But if you are interested in that, Jamie just put the application in the chat. You can also go to coachingwithkrista.com and click on the Work With Me tab. You have to fill out the application. It's not because we're trying to not accept people. It's because we don't want to put you in the wrong program. You answer a couple of short questions. It will make sure that you either need to be in Grief Essentials or Mom Goes On. We would not want to put you in Mom Goes On if that would be overwhelming to you, which is what the application is designed to do. Then either way, you get a free training. One of them explains what we do in Mom Goes On and addresses how women can love life again, widows can love life again. The other one explains what we do in Grief Essentials and addresses how we can make early grief easier. Either way, you get an amazing training, you get the information for the programs, and you have the information you need to decide if you want to come and join us. So that's how that works. Okay, I see another question. My husband died from catastrophic cardiac event. He was gone by the time I got him to the floor. I think I'm doing good, but I retired 2 years before and I don't have a purpose now and no motivation. Okay. Yes. Go and listen to those two podcasts, Connie, that Jamie put in the chat. Yeah. So purpose is one of these things. I'll just address it quickly and you can also go and listen to the podcast episode. Purpose is one of these things that I think we are taught to take way too seriously. I teach it as little p purpose and big P purpose. And by that, I mean your big P purpose is that you are a human on the planet living your life. You are having the human experience, doing human things. And we can all take confidence in congratulating ourselves because we are all doing that, right? We are all living a purpose, which is to have this human experience. Done. Little p purpose, and we spend time on this and Mom Goes On, but I'm just giving the brief primer here, is we just get to pick what we want our purpose to be. And we can change our mind anytime we want, right? So I can just decide my purpose right now is to help widowed moms. I can just decide that, right? My purpose right now is to read to fourth graders. My purpose right now is to make a contribution wherever I go. My purpose right now is to feel my feelings, right? My purpose right now is to laugh once a day. It doesn't matter what we pick. It just matters that we pick. We just pick. And we don't need anybody's approval. And we can change our mind at any time. And again, we treat it like I'm going to learn by doing. If this is the purpose that feels right to me right now, I'm going to go with it. And then at a certain point, if it doesn't feel right to me anymore, I'm going to change my mind and I'm going to pick a new one, right? And I don't need anybody's permission. And I will learn as I go. And then we don't have to take it so seriously. So we think, Connie, okay, and we can come back to our values for this. What is it that I have always valued, even when he was living? What did I value? Kindness, compassion, contribution, what community, what was it that I valued? Right? Because circumstances of our life change, but mostly our values don't change nearly as much. And they can be a really good compass. And so if I can come back to what it is that I value, and even just one value. And if anybody just Google values and it'll give you a list. And then I say, okay, how could I express that value? How could I live that value? If I value community, what does it look like for me to live community? What does it look like for me to express community? Maybe that looks like I find a widow group to go to. Maybe that looks like I go to a church event or a community event, right? Maybe that looks like I find a hobby that I enjoy or want to learn more about. And I involve myself in a community around that, right? There are endless ways to live into or express a value that we could also decide is our purpose. And then it gets easier, so much easier. Otherwise, man, it's just there's all these rights and wrongs and it feels like it's deep and heavy and it just doesn't have to be that way. And then you can follow what feels good to you. Yeah. Okay. My house. Okay. So the next thing Connie wrote was my house has taken a back seat. I have a community of others, but my house is my cave. Yeah. And so I would say, does it feel, if I'm always going with what feels like love to me, sometimes what feels like love to me is staying in my house. Sometimes what feels like love to me is getting out of my house, right? If I trusted myself to know the difference, what would I do? Because maybe today I love that my house is my cave, but after 5 or 6 days, it's too much cave. And what feels like love is to get out into my community of others, right? And so it's less about motivation and it's more about love. What feels like love, right? Love doesn't guide us to a particular action, but it usually guides us to the next best one for us, which we can trust ourselves to know. Okay, love it. All right, thank you all so much for being here. I've enjoyed this time with you. We do this once a month. I would love to see you in Mom Goes On or Grief Essentials. If not, I'd love to have you here too. Also, we have scholarships for Mom Goes On. If you don't know that, I know some people are so worried about the price and they tell us that they can't afford it, but then they don't know about the scholarships or for some reason don't follow up with that. So I just want you to know scholarships are available. If you ever want information on that, just send us an email, support@coachingwithkrista.com, and we will totally help you. Oh, thanks, Barb. I appreciate that. Priscilla, always glad to see you. Okay, Janet, we need to talk. All right, you're welcome, Connie. All right, love you all. Take care of yourselves. Look yourselves in the mirror. I'm not kidding. And like I always say at the end of the podcast, tell yourself, I love you. You've got this, right? Tell yourself that. Don't just let me tell you. You tell you. You tell you. Okay. All right. Love you all. Take care. See you soon. Bye.